What's up, everyone? Sam Shaw here, founder of Wall Street Mastermind. I'm excited to be back today with another client interview for you guys. Today, I'm excited to have Simran on with us. She recently just went through the not summer, full-time, keep saying summer. She recently just went through the full-time 2023 recruiting process as a senior and was able to get a very successful outcome despite what was a very, very tough job market this year. And so I definitely want to get her to come on here and just talk to you guys about how she was able to do that. And hopefully, along the way, we'll shed some insights that will help you with your own recruiting process as well. So, with that said, Simran, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. And if you don't mind, maybe you can start off by just introducing yourself real quick so people can get a sense for who you are.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Simran. I'm a senior at Northeastern University, and um, I actually realized that I wanted to go into banking, I would say, when I joined Wall Street Mastermind. So in August, I had, or my end goal was kind of private wealth. And so throughout the entire time that I was, or I had joined Wall Street Mastermind, I was interning within private wealth management in Seattle. And it's been a really great experience so far. And I think I'm really excited to kind of be done with recruiting as I know it, but I think it definitely made a huge difference being in Wall Street Mastermind, also working or interning 12 to 14 hours a day, and then um kind of networking and being part of the program after, because otherwise there's definitely no way that I would have been able to pivot into banking when I had nothing, when I didn't know anything about it.
Gotcha. So to clarify, up until like the beginning of senior year, your goal was to do private wealth management. So everything, like even the internships you were doing up until that point were mostly in private wealth management. And then at the beginning of senior or in August of senior year, when you joined Wall Street Management, was when you decided you actually want to switch from private wealth into banking. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And so because I was working with ultra high net worth individuals that kind of went through a liquidity event, that kind of motivated me to learn more about the transaction process,
Mm,
and was ultimately why I wanted to get into banking.
got it. Okay. Makes sense. So I guess let's work backwards. Let's start with so obviously you decided to on banking August of senior year, which is I don't know, maybe you didn't know at the time, but you certainly know now. Like that's like very late in the process for full-time recruiting, right? And so
Exactly.
um can we I guess let's first tell people like what was the offer that you ended up with at the end of this whole process?
So I ended up with a offer from Wells Fargo in TMT, specifically tech coverage out of San Francisco.
Awesome. Okay. And you just got the offer recently, right? It was in like December.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I guess the whole process was like probably 4 months for you then, right? Because that's kind of how long you've been in Wall Street National before joining in late August, and then you got the offer in late December. So the 4 month process. So can we well, I typically ask like what did you do to prep for banking recruiting prior to Wall Street Mastermind? But it sounds like from your previous answer, um, you weren't even really thinking about banking back then. So my guess is you hadn't really done much at all, if anything, or like, was there anything you were already doing on your own or resources you were kind of already using prior to Wall Street Mastermind?
No, I wasn't using anything. I wasn't even thinking about it. I knew what investment banking was to some extent, but nothing kind of that would qualify or be good enough for an answer in sort of an interview itself. And I will mention, even though I got my final offer, or I got an offer in December, I actually interviewed with firms like B of A, Piper Sandler, Raymond James, and also BMO throughout this entire process. And I was interning 12 to 14 hours a day. And so that I think is really phenomenal, that just that I was able to get those full-time opportunity or interview for the with those firms for full-time opportunities. And again, I cannot stress like it would not have been done. It would not have happened if I had not joined this program.
That's awesome. So thanks for saying that. I guess what made you want to join Wall Street Mastermind? Was it just the fact that um you realized you were really late in the process and you wanted to just kind of like speed up your preparation process, or kind of like what was the thought process behind it? And then like, and you can be very candid here. I always ask this, but like, did you have any skepticism or were you hesitant about anything prior to joining? And if so, like what ultimately, helped you overcome those thoughts and still join the program regardless?
Well, I think the biggest thing is probably just the cost of it. It definitely is an investment, but with that being said, it is an investment that pays off. And at the end of the day, I got an offer that I really wanted, especially considering market conditions, the fact that I have no relevant experience in banking, nothing that it could have gotten me there otherwise. And so I think it's a question of how valuable do you see the outcome to be. Like if you really want to get into banking and you kind of never did any of these things, I'm also not the most competitive applicant out there,
Yeah,
then it's an investment that I think needs to be made.
gotcha. I guess obviously we don't have your resume in front of us, but like when you say not the most competitive applicant, like can you elaborate on that a little bit? Like why do you say you were not like the most competitive applicant?
So I have a lot of experience. I am graduating college with more than 1.5 years of experience just because of the co-op program that Northeastern University offers,
Yeah,
but none of it is essentially relevant. I don't think that anything is relevant to banking unless you're kind of doing a private equity internship or a banking internship, or even something more relevant would be in fields of accounting or consulting or something like that. But I didn't have any relevant experience. I was involved in a few extracurriculars that kind of did help me, but again, just not as relevant as I think that most banks would want. And in terms of GPA, I was looking in sort of the lower end of the threes too. So that's a really big thing to kind of know that you're definitely not the best candidate going in and still getting the offer over other candidates who are more qualified, again, for positions that aren't even publicly posted.
yeah.
So it's definitely a big sort of accomplishment, and I think mostly a testament to the program itself.
That's awesome. And did you have a understanding of kind of like how the investment banking recruiting timeline worked when you joined the program, or were you like kind of clueless about that? Like, did you realize that because by the time you joined, like full-time recruiting at all the big banks were pretty much starting
Oh,
around that time, right?
yeah.
Were you aware of that, or did you kind of come in thinking like, oh, I still had a lot of time, and then only finding out later that, oh, actually, I don't have that much time?
No, I found out that I didn't. I think so. I don't even have too many friends in banking, so I didn't even know that much about the recruiting timeline. And again, I wasn't even interested, so I never really did research about it.
Yeah,
And then when I actually joined the program, and I think I had a few intro calls with different members of the team, they were kind of the ones to tell me that, you know, you can still do it, but it's going to be a little bit of a struggle.
gotcha. Okay, so you learned about the timeline after you joined the program, and then I guess I'm curious, like, because I think a lot of people in your situation, where just based on kind of what you just described, right? Like, so you go to, I would consider Northeastern a non-target school, right? You go to a
Mhm.
non-target school, your GPA is on the lower side, you don't really have any relevant experience. I feel like a lot of people in your situation, when they're considering whether they should like invest in something like Wall Street Mastermind, they would say, oh, like, given these circumstances, I'm worried that I'm just gonna be wasting my time and money because like I'm not qualified, right? And so obviously you probably had a different mentality, but like I'm curious, what was that mentality? Is it just that like you had confidence that hey, despite all these things and despite the job market and despite everything that's going on, as long as I have the proper help, I'll be able to get to the outcome that I want? Or kind of how did you think about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think one of the other things that I forgot to mention was that when I was on an intro call, one of the biggest things that I think it was Joe. Do I have his name wrong? Is
Joseph?
there? Yeah. Joseph was kind of explaining to me that actually prepping for an interview and doing all the networking, everything that needs to be done, and not only that, but like studying your technicals, making sure you know every single answer to every single question, not even just the concepts alone. That takes so much time. People spend upwards of 400 hours doing that. And what Wall Street Mastermind is actually able to do is explain the concepts really well. I mean, that's what you did in your videos. And I think that was one of the biggest things that kind of just helps you understand. So you're able to not really just memorize answers, but understand the concepts and able to answer any question that you're pretty much given if you just understand the fundamentals. And I think um, just being able to capitalize on a program that really takes advantage of the fact that a lot of its candidates might not have the time to be able to invest into both I mean all parts of the process is something that's was really appealing to me and also another reason that I joined.
Gotcha, gotcha. So basically, you wanted to, you want because you were kind of you felt like you were starting from where you were starting and behind the eight ball a little bit. You wanted, uh, I guess what appealed to you was just how efficient this could make the process and basically shorten the amount of time you would have to spend learning everything from scratch, essentially.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And so like, can we talk a little bit about what what you did exactly then after joining Wall Street Mastermind? Because like 4 months, it's not a lot of time, right? What were some of the things that you did once you joined the program that you found to be the most helpful for you in terms of like getting you this offer that you got in the end?
Um, that's a good question, but honestly, I have to say I literally just followed your directions. The one thing that I wish I didn't I the one thing that I wish that I invested more time into was kind of the behavioral module, which I ultimately just wanted to pick like what's the opportunity cost of not watching every single video in the behavioral module or not doing those things. And the opportunity cost at the end of the day for me not doing that was sacrificing my technical questions, which I thought were just extremely important. And so,
Right.
because I just did not have, as much time as I wanted to kind of invest into everything, I really, really made sure that I put in a lot of effort into the technical questions. And I think that really paid off. But even just not doing that, not even using the program as much as I would have liked, I was still able to kind of get an offer and
God,
interview with 4 or 5 different firms.
how are you able to? What do you think was it that made it so that you could get 4 to 5 interviews in the current? Because again, this is full-time 2023 recruiting cycle. I think it's been one of the toughest uh job markets that we've seen in certainly since Wall Street Mastermind was founded 5 years ago. And so like given I mean because based on what you were describing before, in terms of the your profile on paper, and then also based on how tough the job market was, like what do you think contributed to your ability to be able to get so many interviews?
Um, I again, I just have to say I followed your directions. I mean, I spent a lot of time just cold emailing, networking, getting people on the phone as much as I possibly could. And that really, really worked out for me because that's honestly how I got all those interviews in the first place. I
Mhm.
think, especially being a candidate, that no one is just looking at my resume and just immediately being like, oh, we need to have her at our firm. That's kind of just what you have to do. And that's something that I wouldn't have thought of or even considered, probably invested even half or a fourth as much time into doing, but like something that I learned was kind of necessary and kind of the effects are there. I mean, you can see that I was able to interview at 4 different firms, eventually get an offer, and, that's kind of just what happens when you follow your directions.
And how much so yeah, that's what I kind of figured, which is like most likely it came down to your networking skills because that's usually what it takes to get interviews, especially if you know you're not coming from a target school and you don't have that much relevant experience and GPA is on a lower side. Like there's a lot of things that were kind of going against you that to overcome those things, you kind of have to rely on networking, right? How much time would you say you spent on networking? Because like you said earlier, you were working 12 to 14 hours a day, it sounded like. So you couldn't possibly have had that much time outside of work, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't, but I spent pretty much every moment that I had outside of work doing this, and so I would never take calls on the desk or anything like that. When I was on the desk, that was pretty much, I mean, entirely kind of associated to work. I actually even received a return offer within private wealth,
Wow.
but denied that too. And so when I was going home, I was not only sending out emails, but I also had a lot of calls with analysts on the East Coast who were, really nice and that they were able to kind of make time late at night. Of course, they're probably still on the desk there and they don't really mind, but um they were honestly just nice. And I think if you don't give up and you kind of take into account that people do want to help you, then you will kind of get somewhere at the end of the day.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like you're just an extremely hard worker. I mean, most people I would say after a 12 to 14-hour workday probably just want to go home and watch Netflix or something, but sounded like you were putting in some, I guess, banking hours before you even got into banking. And kind of because recruiting, to be honest, like recruiting for investment banking, that in and of itself, I feel like could be a full-time job, right? Like in
It
terms
it definitely is, and looking back, I didn't even put as much time as I wanted to in,
of,
and I think I would totally do the entire process differently and that I would do a summer analyst position, but again, I didn't even know that I wanted to go into banking, so, like, it's different from there, but, I made it work to the extent that I could, and it paid off.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's not your fault that you didn't realize you wanted to do banking earlier. Obviously, if you did realize earlier, we always recommend everyone go the summer internship route because it will be much easier and you have a lot more time and there's a lot more job openings available. But I agree, like you absolutely, given the circumstances, you actually um, did the best that you could with kind of like the hand that you were dealt. And so I think, quite frankly, the outcome that you got was amazing. I guess on the interview prep side of things, it sounds like you focus most of that on the technical aspect, which is understandable because you had just realized you wanted to do banking, so you probably hadn't learned any of the technicals. But like, were you pretty much starting from scratch when it came to learning these technical concepts, or like did you have a little bit of like corporate finance knowledge already coming in?
No, definitely I was not starting from scratch. I'm a finance major, but even with that, there was so much stuff that I think was not that I just forgot. I mean, accounting I took like freshman year, I took evaluation and value creation class, I took some relevant classes, but I think if you're not actually applying that, then it's just going in one year and out the other. And
Right.
so I was not starting from scratch. I think I definitely had some understanding and I think that was an advantage for me, but also I definitely needed to review a lot, and I think the technicals was where I messed up on multiple occasions during interviews, and even if I didn't mess up, it just was not better than other applicants and better than my competition. I think that was the main reason.
Gotcha. You're saying in the end, you were still not doing better than other applicants, or you're saying like coming into it, you weren't doing better than other applicants? Just to clarify.
No, coming into it, I wasn't doing better than other applicants.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. So I guess like what would you say is the difference between kind of like how you learn technical concepts in Wall Street Mastermind versus like how you would have just done it on your own then? Like, is there a difference? Because like I think the question that a lot of people ask when it comes to technical interview prep is like, I mean, isn't it all the same concepts? Like, if I just read an interview guide or if I just took a financial modeling course or whatever, like, wouldn't I learn the exact same things?
No, because I mean, the way that and I think this is just a flaw that I have, I tend to just try to memorize answers and it never works out. I mean, it's never going to work out no matter how you do it, what class or what course you're doing it for. It's just never going to work, especially in an interview where you're already nervous. And so, um, I even though I am a finance major, I've taken these classes before, some relevant classes, still was not 100% ingrained in my head. And after kind of watching the videos where someone explains it to you and bringing you through each concept and you're actually able to connect the dots easily, it's very much different because you can compare that. And I've actually done this. I mean, I wanted to use as many resources as I possibly could. So I looked up the 400 questions guide. I subscribed to Wall Street Red Prep book for industry specific questions, specifically tech questions, and their
Mm.
answers are not only vague, but it's not something that you can memorize and understand and be able to give a good answer to if the question's asked a little bit differently. So you need to understand the concepts.
Gotcha. Yeah. So basically, it's the difference between like brute force memorization, which is what a lot of people are doing, which doesn't work very well because you're basically, when you do that, you're basically banking on like your interviewers asking you the exact questions you already memorized, which is not going to happen, versus you actually learning these concepts and internalizing it to the point where, like we always tell people, the goal is to get to the point where you can actually teach these concepts to someone else who doesn't know anything about finance. And like, if you can do that, that's when we know you're ready for the interview, right?
Mhm.
And so like, and also like, I think like one analogy that I like to um, give too is like, it's kind of like, I mean, there's obviously multiple ways to learn things, but it's kind of like the difference between you going to school and you going to class and learning it from a professor during lecture who's a subject matter expert and explaining these concepts to you, and going to office hours and asking questions to the TA and having that interaction versus if you just bought like a textbook and stayed at home and read the entire textbook from front to back and try to teach it to yourself, right? Like one's going to be more effective than the other. And not saying you know reading a textbook on your own can't work, but it's a matter of like efficiency and also just like effectiveness, I feel like, in my opinion, right?
Mhm.
Cool. So I guess one last question for you. Like, do you have any advice for people who are just going through the process now? Maybe someone who's finds themselves in a similar situation as you, like maybe they discovered investment banking really late, they don't have an opportunity to do a summer internship, so they have to go through full-time recruiting. Maybe they're, kind of behind the eight ball. Like, was there a piece of advice that someone gave you, or maybe just something you figured out on your own along the way that you feel like really made a big difference for you, that you can like kind of pass that down to other people?
Um, yes, actually. I mean, I think that, of course, take this with a grain of salt, but you can never be doing more than, I mean, you can always do more. And I think that's the one thing that you have to keep in mind. And so, like, um, if you're kind of discouraged at any point, like, you always just have to work harder. I thought that I was working as hard as I possibly could, and then I actually was trying to network internally at GS and talk to a few bankers there, and they were like, "Well, you're just not doing enough. Like, you're literally not doing enough. Like, how do you not know this stuff yet?"
Mm.
And I was like, I didn't even know what to say, and so, like, after that, I kind of went home and just worked even harder, which I kind of, sacrificed a lot of other things to do, but in the
Yeah.
end, it worked out. And so I think that Sam gives you all of the resources you could possibly need. He's able to give you information on every step of the process, which I think is not really clear until you actually um, go through recruiting or you even have some friends in recruiting, you're part of a club in recruiting, like, you wouldn't know this information, especially someone like me, but you have to take advantage of all the resources you have and really just work as hard as you can.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, honestly, for anyone that wants to get into banking, like if you're not willing to work hard, then there's just no way that anything's gonna happen, right? Like there's so many other students out there who want to get into banking who are uh I feel like typically the people who are interested in banking, like they typically have pretty good work ethics, or else they would be kind of turned off by the work life balance in the first place and probably not trying to break into this field, right? So like the point being, all of your competition is probably working super hard, or they're the hardworking type, and so that's just kind of like table stakes. That's the bare minimum. Like if other people are working super hard and you're not willing to put in the work, then like you're already losing from that standpoint, right? So I think that's really really good advice from your part. So look, guys, if you're still listening to this, if you find yourself uh kind of going through the process, maybe you're behind, maybe you didn't realize you want to do banking until much later, or maybe you just feel like you're not the strongest candidate on paper, perhaps is because of the school you go to or your GPA or your experience. Like it could be a lot of things, right? Everybody's different, but whatever it may be, like if you're just looking for that additional help, you want to kind of have a competitive advantage to help you level the playing field a bit so that you can overcome all these challenges, like, and still get in. Despite, I mean, some people make excuses like, oh, because of XYZ reasons I can't get in, and then other people like Simran, like despite having all these hurdles that she had to overcome, she's wouldn't take no for an answer, right? And so like if you sound like that type of person, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to break into investment banking, then I want to encourage you to reach out to our team to see if we can help you, right? And the way you do that is you can actually book a free virtual coffee chat with one of the upperclassmen that's already gone through our program first, and just have a quick chat with them to. I mean, you can ask them whatever you want. You can ask for recruiting advice. You can ask them about their experience in the program. You can tell them about what you're currently going through and see what they think. And then at the end of that conversation, like, if you are still interested in working with us, then they can help you set up an additional follow-up call with our team so that we can see if it's a good fit, right? And if not, then hey, no harm, no foul. You just take whatever advice you got and go out and implement that on your own. And either way, like our goal here is really just to help you out in whatever way we can, regardless of whether we actually work together or not. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can go to book this call at www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. The street is abbreviated, so it's ST, so it's wallstmastermind.com/apply. And we look forward to talking to you. All right. So with that said, Simran, I want to thank you again for taking the time to kind of share your story with us today. I think honestly, it's very inspiring, especially for a lot of people out there who find themselves in a similar situation as you, where they're super late. They don't feel like they're as prepared as they should be. Like a lot of times, I feel like those people might feel like there's not a whole lot of hope, and so I think it's always great for them to be able to see someone like you who was able to overcome all these challenges and still get an amazing outcome. And so and obviously, like, that's also a testament to just how hardworking you are, and how much work you were willing to put in, and just to go above and beyond on top of working 12 to 14 hours a day. So you absolutely deserve all the success coming your way, and I can't wait to see kind of what's ahead for you, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, happy to kind of share my story. And again, it would not have been possible without the Wall Street Mastermind program. So thank you again for even offering it in the first place.
No, I appreciate that. And so, guys, that's going to be it for this episode today. We're going to wrap it up here. And thank you guys for tuning in. And we'll be back with more of these in the near future. And until next time, all right, bye.